within News Corporation, what they expect the newspapers here in Britain and whether they should be kept on. Let's go by webcam to Chicago. In crisis and corporate reputation management, I'm joined by the expert Daniel Diermeier from the Kellogg School of Management. Dr. Diermeier, thanks very much indeed for joining us here on The Hub. How would you reflect now on the real corporate governance challenges for News Corporation, for Murdoch, and Murdoch?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I think yesterday, when we looked at the hearing and the overall events that occurred yesterday, I would say it was a stabilizing day for Rupert Murdoch and for News Corp. On the one hand, there were serious concerns about his lack of involvement, and it looked like that he was befuddled by the questions. On the other hand, in part through this pie-throwing incident, there was also some kind of sympathy, I think, that many viewers have felt. But the more fundamental question is, number one, is whether there were widespread processes and ongoing systematic violations of people's privacy, all the way up to illegalities and violation of ethical principles. And these issues have not been removed since yesterday. So I would say it was a stabilizing day, but the fundamental questions are still on the table.
There are issues of governance and issues as well about what investors expect, particularly investors who've invested large amounts of money but have no voting rights.
Yes, I think this is something that we saw yesterday. So there was a minor increase in the stock price for News Corp, but I think that is really a reflection of the free fall that we've seen over the last 2 weeks. As an investor, you have to be concerned about the governance mechanisms and the potential lack of oversight at News Corp. So it's not enough that the executives say that we don't know. The question is really, why didn't they know? And are the processes in place to protect the company and its shareholders?
What would you say about the vast number of investors who believe that really News Corporation was becoming a cash cow and were prepared to essentially set to one side any doubts they had because they didn't have voting rights, but now saying, we want a say because our money is in that company?
Yeah, I think News Corp has a very unusual governance structure. So on the one hand, investors, of course, always have been aware of that, and there's this whole Murdoch discount when you compare News Corp valuation compared to other media companies. On the other hand, problematic or questionable governance structures become especially apparent during moments of crisis, because that's really when you know that you need a functioning board, you need some independence between the executives and the board. It really pays off in those moments. So I think that investors are now a lot more aware of these difficulties, and that in good times we're not on the top of their agenda.
Daniel Diermeier from Chicago, from the Kellogg School of Management. Thanks, Daniel, for joining us here on The Hub with those reflections on the